how surprised were you when North Carolina was announced as an 11 seed set to play San Diego State in the first four?
I actually wasn't surprised North Carolina was in the bracket. And you want to know why? This was my own surmising. I obviously did not have a hint of the bracket beforehand, but every year, and I don't even know if this was the case, by the way, but when we were building out to do the interviews.
I think you're about to say the exact same thing I noticed as well, but go ahead.
So, the plan becomes, the plan had been to be clear, this is not like, at 4:47, the plan changed. It was, I want to say yesterday, hey, we're going to do Bubba Cunningham and Keith Gill. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then I was like, wait a second. If Bubba Cunningham, like, this has never happened before, where, on CBS Sports HQ, where I did the interview, on CBS Sports Network, where you and the crew do the interviews there, it's always just the chair. And I thought, are they preparing in the event that Carolina gets in that, I can't ask the chair because he's not in the room when Carolina gets in. So in all honesty, Parrish, I thought there was a real possibility that Carolina was going to get in because they were doing this. And additionally, with that, with the metric stuff on all this stuff, with wins above bubble now being involved and Carolina clearly being much better positioned than some other teams, I don't think it should have been in the field. I've been clear on that. But surprised? No. I was bracing for it. And I even told a few HQ folks here, in the hour and a half or so before we got going, I was like, I put out my what I would do if I was in the field, but I was like, this isn't going to be right. There's going to be one or two teams that I'm off on, and I think Carolina's getting in. Lo and behold, Carolina's in.
So
is that what you were thinking? The same thing I was thinking.
I walked in the studio today, walked in the CBS Broadcast Center. I know after the selection show, we've got a 3-hour show. I don't really know exactly what my responsibilities are going to be in this show, except I knew I was going to interview the committee chair, or at least I was going to be among the people interviewing the committee chair on CBS Sports Network, that, of course, Bubba Cunningham. Then I was told it was going to be 2 people instead of 1, and I thought immediately the exact same thing you thought. And other people in the room, I should say. It was just like okay, are they in? Because it makes no sense. It makes no sense to bring 2 people to that interview unless the primary person is not going to be capable of answering some of the biggest question you're going to have. So yes, that was a little bit of a tip of the hand. I will say I was surprised that they're in because I don't think they should be in. If you can't do better than 1 and 12 in quadrant 1, that's all I need to know. All right. That's all I need to know. If you can't do better than that, you had your chances. And I know they were a lot of really good quadrant 1. I don't care. If you're 1 and 12 in quadrant 1, I just don't want to see you. I will say you start putting the resumes though up to Indiana's, West Virginia's. It's not a blowout in the other direction that West Virginia, Indiana, these other schools clearly, it's just crazy belonged in over North Carolina. I do think they did belong in over North Carolina though. So there's 2 main points here that I think are important. One, they really go out of their way to explain how Bubba is removed from the room and he's not in there. And I get all that. Yeah. I know. I get all that. I stopped short of, and that means there's no influence at all. Of course there's some influence. The head of the committee is the athletic director at North Carolina. I don't know how close all these people are on the committee, but I bet you some of them are friendly. I bet you they've had drinks together. I bet you they've had appetizers together. I bet you they've, shared cars back and forth to places together. That influence exists, whether or not you know it or not. So just because he's not in the room doesn't mean there's no influence whatsoever. There's influence. I'm not trying to claim intentional influence. I'm just saying it exists among humans. And the other thing is there are so many data points now that the committee has access to that it really did feel like to me, if you were trying to argue in favor of Indiana, you can pull this data point and that data point and make your case. Arguing in favor of West Virginia, you can pull this data point, that data point, make your case. There's a lot of stuff to emphasize. It kind of just comes down to what do you want to emphasize? And when it got to North Carolina, they started emphasizing the things that mostly help North Carolina. I never heard so many people talk about a quad 2 record before. Like
Little did you know.
When's the last time you heard a quad 2 record get emphasized?
Not on this podcast, that's for sure.
Yeah, we don't talk about things like that, but suddenly there's the committee, and
we don't talk about quad 2 records here. Okay, you take that talk elsewhere. Okay.
Yeah, come over here, try to talk about quad 2 stuff and see what happens. All right, we ain't doing it. But like, it's like, well, they were 8-0 in quadrant 2, and again, UNC, Indiana, West Virginia. If you told me right now, or if you gave me 10 minutes, and said, come back in 10 minutes and make an argument in favor of each of them independently, don't worry about contradicting yourself. Just make the argument, make it sound good. I could make it sound good for Indiana, for West Virginia, and I could make it sound good for North Carolina too. And that's what they did.
Quad 2 is the new quad 1. Who cares? Give me a quad 2. I just love the idea that the worst opponents that you played and the better you did and mean more than the best. It's amazing to me. Whatever. Carolina has as much appreciation and motivation as any team in the bracket, but this idea that they played 13 teams and they won 1 game, but hell, they didn't lose against all the other teams. Is it a crime against some humanity? Of course it's not. We're going to need to get to West Virginia, because the logic on that, oh my God, the logic on West Virginia. But this newfound territory that is quad 2, and it's outsized importance. I don't know when we're ever going to see this again, by the way. The sitting chair of the selection committee is the working athletic director of the last team into the field. Like, this is outrageous. And if anyone, in all seriousness, and we always get loopy on this show, I don't know where the hell we're going with this. I'm starving, and I can't wait to talk with you over the next hour plus. I'm sure a lot of people are going to go and run with whatever Carolina. That's fine. No, I'm actually going to believe the people that do this and do it professionally. And Bubba was never in the room when Carolina got discussed. To your point, doesn't mean that there can't be some influence here or there. I get all that, but if anyone else wants to go nuts over it, particularly if you are in the greater Morgantown area, I won't blame you.
If you want to make the West Virginia case, this would be the place to do it. Let's get all the bubble talk out of the way so we can focus on the bracket. West Virginia, 19-13 overall, 6-10 in quadrant 1. So they had 5 more quadrant 1 wins than North Carolina. But they were disappointing in quad 2. Only 4.
Actually, I don't even know. Lay it on me. What's that quad 2 record right now?
4-3, embarrassing.
That's disgusting. Get them out of my bracket.
That's disgusting. Get them out of the bracket. North Carolina went 8-0 in quadrant 2. Who does West Virginia even think it is?
Okay, so listen, as GP and I,
somehow North Carolina's quadrant 2 record was emphasized more than West Virginia's quadrant 1 record. If you want to make sense,
amazing,
of that.
And not just that. Okay, but just for our live listeners, and the chat's always humming on Selection Sunday, we appreciate you. But Parrish and I have not talked about any of this stuff. I don't know what he's got, but we're just going to roll with the punches. Having said that, I assume you're aware of what they said, maybe to me on HQ. I think they might have said it on CBS. We're doing the same thing, but very differently on different timelines. So you're aware of this Tucker DeVries stuff and the reasoning they use, I assume?
Tucker DeVries ain't played basketball in forever.
It's insane. And
you might as well say West Virginia lost Bob Huggins. So that's why you wanted to keep him out. But Hugs ain't there no more. Okay, yeah, we got it. They still did what they did. They still did what they did. Like, I couldn't believe Tucker's name came up. He's like mostly irrelevant to this basketball team. It's an insane
reason to keep a team out of the tournament. They have played more than 75% of their season without Tucker DeVries, and they have beaten more quad 1 teams than North Carolina by a factor of 3 or 4. It's not even close. And the idea that they were talking like he was Kenyon Martin. What are we doing here? And not only that, and I did say this on the HQ desk. West Virginia should be in the field. Palm had him as the first team going to Dayton. So not the last team in the bracket, but on Saturday. And I was like, Palm, I haven't seen a lot of West Virginia stuff. That's actually kind of intriguing by you. So, but bracket matrix, 100, every single bracket had him in. This is like Tulsa, from 7-8 years ago. I will say this. It is actually in my opinion, it is a good thing that the committee it's not falling prey to groupthink, and that it's not just, okay, what does Bracket Matrix have? Let me inform that. I actually think that's a good thing. However, if 111 people that go from the professionally well-played bracketologists to the diehard hobbyists doing this in their own niche world all have this team in the field and they're not in, you done messed up. It is, and the Tucker DeVries stuff is, it doesn't stand on its own merit. But Carolina's in, Xavier's in. They only have quad one win as well. But Xavier, this all connects this way. Quite clearly, Xavier not having Fremantle for the overtime loss to UConn and the 2-point loss to Marquette, which I know because I talked to Sean about. They hammered that to the committee, and now Fremantle's been available. That got him in. They're going to Dayton, whereas Tucker DeVries not being around wound up completely overturning West Virginia. This ranks among the 3 or 4 most shocking omissions I can ever remember in the NCAA tournament.
He hasn't played since December 6th. How about this?
We got to see more. We needed one more West Virginia game. Also, this goes to show you, don't lose to Colorado in your league tournament.
You ready for this? Tucker DeVries' injury mattered more to the selection committee than Cooper Flagg's.
Oh my God, that's right.
Tyrese Hunter is in a boot on the Memphis bench, and they didn't ding Memphis. They gave Memphis a 5 seed. Almost nobody thought Memphis was getting a 5 seed.
It's all over the place. We got to get to the bracket, but TJ Ossenberg came out and said, we're not going to have Keyshawn Gilbert. They got a 3. They called him out of it. This team has no business being on the 3 line. They like revealed the bracket. 2 seconds later, Ossenberg called a press conference, said, hey, this dude ain't playing for us anymore, but we're going to go take the 3 seed. It's amazing. It's incredible.
Yeah. So, listen, with Indiana, I think Indiana should have been in the field over North Carolina as well. But with Indiana, you can at least look at them and go, hey, you could have done A, B, C. What could you tell West Virginia? You could have what?
Don't lose to Colorado.
You could have been good enough without Tucker DeVries. We were good enough without Tucker. And then they told us he's the reason, among the reasons we're not in. We were good enough without him. What? That's the one where I would be really frustrated. At some point, there's got to be a cut line, and every year somebody's going to make it that feels really fortunate to be there, and somebody else is going to get left out that feels like they got screwed. But this West Virginia thing, I think, is I don't want to say an all-timer. I don't want to get hyperbolic. It just feels wrong. It just feels wrong because I don't appreciate the reasons. If you ever bring up Tucker DeVries' injury to this West Virginia team, I get it. He was going to be one of their best players, if not their best player. He was maybe not their best player, but he was going to be one of the best players. And he's not there. That's not ideal. But they had more than 3 months to play basketball without him and to prove what they are without him. And what they showed they were without him, I think, was a team that, at the very least, I'll make it specific, belonged in the NCAA tournament field over the North Carolina team that got in.
For official bookkeeping purposes, your last 4 in. Carolina was the last one in the door, and then it was San Diego State, which is a joke. Boise State obviously doesn't get in. Okay, so UNC, then Carolina, UNC, then San Diego State, then Xavier, and then Texas was not near the cut line with 15 loss. Stop me. I'm not going on this tangent again about how loss volume should matter. I know you're in the toughest league, but the fact that Texas had this much leg room, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me with Texas? And then this is an even bigger joke. Look at this. Look at this. West Virginia, Indiana. What? I'm tempted to drop the F word. What in the damn world is Ohio State doing above Boise State? What's going on? What is going on? What's clear here in all seriousness is they added Torvik and they added wins above bubble. I love it. I love it. And these results happen because all these committee members have individual ballots. But I think more metrics could lead to wonkier outcomes. I think that's clear. I think you see that evidence with a couple of other seeds, which we'll get to later on. And we don't need to spend more than 7 more seconds on this.